gentlemen, namaste and a very, very warm welcome to technically day 4, however, the third day of the plenary discussions under the ASIC conference, the 36th and the 36th edition of ASIC conference umbrella. So, I believe you would agree we've had an incredible journey so far. It's been quite fruitful coming through all those discussions and deliberations that we have had in the past 2 days under the topics and areas that revolve around the very theme of innovation that we have been focusing on in this particular forum. Thank you so much for those very transformative ideas and the great input that you have given to us, which we all believe only add to building a meaningful collaboration and partnership in the days ahead to make ASIC more strong and effective. So today, even before we commence the formalities, ladies and gentlemen, we wish to mark with a very, very special moment, marking a new chapter in the ASIC community. We are delighted to welcome our newest member once again on the stage. We're part of a ceremonious occasion where we extended them a warm welcome today. Today, it's our pleasure to hear from their observations and their experience and how they are feeling to be a part of the community now. And you're very right, it's Cambodia Credit Guarantee Corporation, the newest member of the ASIC family. Ladies and gentlemen, to address us on this momentous occasion, we have the esteemed His Excellency Dr. Van May, Secretary of State of the Ministry of Economy and Finance of Cambodia, who also serves as the Chairman of the Board Risk Management Committee and Investment Committee there. We are honored now to invite him up on stage to share the insights from Team Cambodia.
Thirty-sixth ACSIC Conference, Nepal. Financing innovations for economic growth. Shaping innovative future.
Namaste. I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Credit Guarantee Corporation of Cambodia, I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude to all of ASIC members for gracious accepting CGCC as a member of ASIC this year in 2024. So CGCC applied to be a member of ASIC in 2022 because we believe that ASIC is an excellent forum for all like-minded credit guarantee institutions to engage in mutual learning and growth through exchanging knowledge, experience, and information. As an observer of the ASIC over the last 2 years, CGCC has actively participated in the ASIC event, including the 34th ASIC conference in Korea, the 35th ASIC conference in Mongolia, and now the 36th ACSIC conference in Nepal. In addition, CGCC has attended the 31st ACSIC training in Indonesia and also 32nd ACSIC training in Japan. To show our commitment as a member of the ACSIC, CGCC has expressed keen interest in hosting the ASIC training program in 2026 in Cambodia. Once again, I would like to sincerely thank to all ASIC members for showing your support of the CGCC as the host of the ASIC training program in 2026. I look forward to welcome all ASIC members to Cambodia, the Kingdom of Wonder. Last of all, I would like to take this opportunity to inform you that starting from the 1st October 2024, CGCC will be led by the new CEO, Mr. Nolida, to replace Mr. Wang Kitlong, who you may know during the last few years of the ASIC conference. May I invite Mr. Nolida to stand up to show and congratulate him to be the new CEO of the CGC Cambodia from now on. CGC is committed to be a valuable member of the ASIC, and we look forward to our existing and fruitful cooperation. May your collaboration reach a new high like Mount Everest, like we show in the beauty of the Nepal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you indeed, Your Excellency, Dr. Van May, for your very, very inspiring words, and especially for sharing Cambodia's vision with us as the newest member of ASICS. And now we turn to the day's engagements, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do that, we are privileged now to hear from a very distinguished figure in Nepal's financial and legal policy reigns. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me for the opening statement of Day 4 here at the 36th ACSIC Conference. The Joint Secretary of the Ministry of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, who is also a valued member of the Board of Directors of the Deposit and Credit Guarantee Fund. We have this pleasure and privilege to be inviting up on the podium Mr. Binod Kumar Bhattarai.
Thank you, Madam. Namaskar. Good morning, Your Excellencies, Chief Delegates, and staff members from participating countries, dignitaries, and friends. I am sure you must have enjoyed the warm hospitality of Nepal these few days, especially as you visited Patan Darbar Square yesterday. To be very honest, we have also enjoyed hosting you here, and the deep connections and conversations we have developed over the last 3 days will strengthen our bonds of collaboration. If there is one thing that I will take away from this 36th ACSIC conference, it is the power of collaboration. So many of you have suggested that we are stronger when we are able to build communication corridors to improve trade dialogue, risk dialogue, and financial inclusion dialogues. I hope the chief delegates will take these ideas forward, and we will hear from them at the next ACSIC conference in Taiwan. We also learned from memoirs from Japan and Korea on the power of data and their ability to build sustainable financial products focused at better financial inclusion and resilience. I believe we must learn how to customize these for our countries. I believe public credit guarantees are the extended arms of the central bank. We have very strong and well-governed central banks in our countries, and we need to work closely to deliver their monetary policies and regulations. The day is penultimate day for this conference, and I hope you will enjoy the events planned for the day. On behalf of the Board for Deposit and Credit Guarantee Fund, Nepal. I wish you a wonderful day and more fulfilling conversations. Hope as well as this program will be concluded successfully. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you indeed for your very, very warm words and for the cordiality that you've extended to this forum. Thank you indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, now let us shift our focus to one of the core pillars of ASIC's activities. As you all know, our two major programs. Since its inception, ASIC has held its flagship conference, this one. The 36th edition is ongoing. This is all aimed at fostering dialogue and collaboration among the credit guarantee institutions across our region, that's Asia. And in addition to this conference, which has come to the 36th edition, we also conduct the annual training program ATP, as you all know, which has become an essential platform for knowledge sharing and capacity building. Now, this year, as we've just come past the 32nd edition of ATP, which is a continuation of our long-standing commitment to advancing expertise in credit supplementation, to give you a deeper insight into what came out or how did the course, take shape at the 32nd ATP, I am honored, ladies and gentlemen, to invite up to the podium the Senior Managing Director. I come back to this again, to the Senior Managing Director of JFC, Mr. Kenjo Yoneda.
Namaste, good morning, everyone. I'm here to thank all the member institutions that participated in the latest ATP ACSIC training program held in Japan earlier this month. First of all, I'd like to express our gratitude to the DCGF for giving us this opportunity. Now I'm happy to share that the 32nd ATP was successfully held in Tokyo for 3 days from September 3rd, co-hosted by JFC and JFG. At that time, a strong typhoon was approaching Japan, and we were concerned about the safe arrival of participants. Fortunately, the program was able to go ahead as scheduled. We had 43 participants from 16 ACSIC members, including CGCC. They presented their best practices and took part in active Q&A sessions. We believe it was a great chance for them to connect and learn from each other. We've also prepared a short video of the ATP, and we hope you all enjoy it. Seeing is believing. Thank you.
View of cement in Taiwan.
Need, which is lack of growth momentum.
Then I will go over the main features of credit guarantee.
The 32nd ATP, ladies and gentlemen, that was. As we look forward to the 33rd next year, and I'm sure this must have brought at least a little air of nostalgia for many of us inside this room. Well, yes, as we look forward, let me bring you back to the 36th ACSIC conference now. And now we make an attempt to dive a little deeper into one of the most pressing issue of global concern of our times, and that is climate, environment, and the sustainable development quotient of the entire argument that the globe is reeling under at the moment. The theme of this panel is set at innovative solutions, financing for nature, ladies and gentlemen. It's a session we've tailored in such a way as we attempt to bring together thought leaders and experts who are shaping the future of financing, building, and consumption in ways that address the intensifying climate crisis, which is already shaking the foundations of our significance here, in the place we're living. For years, as you know, policymakers and planners have grappled with this balance between development and sustainability, and this is going to be an argument or discussion for years to come. However, we try to delve into the current challenges and the way we're looking at the future. So, said this, we are now privileged to introduce you an outstanding panel to guide us through this very critical discussion. And it's my pleasure to invite upon stage the session moderator, Ms. Miriam Shakirova, the Senior Natural Resource Management Specialist at the World Bank. As you take on the floor, ma'am, I now hand over the floor for the rest of the proceedings. Please, the floor is all yours.
Okay. Hi, namaste, everyone. Good morning. My name is Miriam Shakirova, Senior Natural Resource Management Specialist at the World Bank, based in Kathmandu in Nepal. So we have an exciting session today, and I just want to provide an overview and get you a little bit excited about green financing. So today we will present and discuss on how private and public finance can be harnessed to mobilize and drive green financing. We will emphasize the importance of the government, the private sector, regulators that are supported by the financial institutions, and as well as multilateral development banks, holding the key to mobilizing private finance at scale that is needed to transform the way we build, produce, and consume, and how to protect nature while stimulating economic growth. Innovative financing solutions are needed to address the global financing gap for nature through green financing. Green financing is usually a cost-effective way to address climate change, biodiversity loss, and environmental and social challenges. It could include blended financing through public and private sector. It could create new business models as well as convening different partners and stakeholders. There are different solutions for nature that could include different instruments and tools, such as green bonds, payment for ecosystem services, nature swaps, green schemes, green loans, among many others. So today, we will present some of the tools and instruments in different countries and different scenarios through different stakeholders, from the Agricultural Development Bank to a private sector, as well as some of the public financing that is critical to mobilize and create the technology pipeline. So without further ado, let me introduce the first speaker, Dr. Babu Kaji Tapa. He is the Deputy General Manager from the Agricultural Development Bank Limited, Nepal, to present us on how they're mobilizing financing for forest-based small and medium enterprises. Thank you.
Speak something. Presentation. Okay, very good morning. Thank you, Mary, for inviting me in this important session for delivering some slides on mobilizing investment for forest-based small and micro enterprises. Well, I am Babu Kaji Thapa, working for Agricultural Development Bank. This bank is a government bank, government-owned bank. How this is not working? Yeah, not working. Well, I would like to introduce my organization. I already said that Agricultural Development Bank is a state-owned bank and around 300,000 shareholders, having almost 2,700 staffs, particularly in agriculture and forest-based staffs are there also. 282 branches and almost 145,000 borrowers, having loan portfolio 203,485 Nepali rupees, million Nepali rupees. 33% of the total portfolio is in agriculture and forestry. And we are also involving in many governmental development activities also. We have 3 ongoing development projects. Forest for Prosperity project funded by World Bank is one of them. Another is psychometric scoring test for client selection. It is a project entrusted by IFC. And another important and big project we have is that from IFAD. It is a $100 million project in Nepal, and we are implementing this project particularly for agriculture development and rural financing in agriculture. And pipelines, in pipeline we have Queka and Joika project. We have many products, deposit products, loan and advances, saving, call account, current account, whatever commercial, what the commercial banks operate, we also operate the same way. And I come to the challenges in financing forest-based enterprises in Nepal. I think this is very relevant to you too also. You know, there are so many challenges in Nepal, particularly for financing forest-based enterprises and agriculture also. To name them, most of the challenges are okay, technical problem. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. You know what I was talking that challenges of forest-based enterprises in Nepal, particularly in terms of financing. You know, most of the commercial banks prefer to go to the most commercial products like agriculture, forestry are considered as the most volatile business in Nepal, because there is no surety of market, there is no surety of inputs, like fertilizer, pesticides, something like that. And there is no sure of market also. So banks are reluctant to finance in forest and agriculture-based enterprises. So this is the most important and challenging in Nepal. And similarly, most of the banks prefer to take collateral from the customer. Collateral means backup for the loan. That may be land or building, and most of the small enterprises cannot provide collateral to the bank, so they are not able to take the loan. And in forest-based enterprises, it is almost a long cycle, long investment cycle is more or less long, and enterprises are again informal and they are unorganized. This is another challenge. Lack of financial awareness, where I can take the loan, what kind of documents to be submitted. The many small farmers, small entrepreneurs have no idea to prepare the documents for the banks. Well, and another important thing is that financial literacy. Most of the entrepreneurs have no idea, illiterate, right? They don't have the required financial literacy. And another important thing is that financial literacy. Most of the entrepreneurs are illiterate. They don't have required financial literacy, and so that they cannot take the loan just because of their illiteracy and credit worthiness. In uncertain markets, long investment cycle, I already explained it, long moratorium period, inability to provide enough collateral, lack of appropriate insurance coverage. For the last 3 days, we are talking about insurance. Yeah. In terms of forest-based enterprises also, most of the entrepreneurs, they don't have access to the insurance companies. Either they are unable to go to the insurance companies, or insurance companies are reluctant to insure their enterprises. And for taking loan, there are complex procedure also. Time-consuming environmental measures are there. Multiple provisions of taxation, royalty, and subsidies. Difficulties in transportation and export of forest products from one place to another. And poorly defined forest-based enterprises, least recognized private sector in forestry in comparison of other economic sectors, and unclear provisions over property rights. Nepal's forestry sector has not been able to contribute to the economic potential that can be achieved through private sector engagement in forest. Other challenges, if we talk other challenges, there are so many challenges in the forest enterprises in our country, in Nepal, like lack of institutional cohesion for service delivery, unpredictable supply of raw materials, unfair competition in the timber business also, lack of entrepreneur culture, lack of business service providers, lack of incentives for private forest, unfair competition in the timber business, lack of capacity and skilled labor. Okay, let me talk something about the project we have received from the World Bank. Thank you, Miriam. This is the first project we have been implementing by the ADBL, Agriculture Development Bank. That is, we are called as Forest for Prosperity project. Whatever you say, green financing, green bond, climate resilient programs, whatever you say, this is totally a project that is based on forest enterprises, and it is for nature and it is for climate resilience. The project name, I already told you that Forest for Prosperity project. It is implemented by Ministry of Forest and Environment and implementing partner, particularly access to finance component is implemented by Agriculture Development Bank, and it's a 24 million USD project. And you know, Nepal has 7 provinces, and this project is implemented in 2 provinces only, Madhya and Lumbini. If we talk about innovative solution to invest in sustainable nature, we are implementing component 3 of the project, that is forest enterprise improvement and development. This component is supporting the forest-based product entrepreneur, particularly to improve and enable the conditions and providing access to finance, simply to provide the loan to the entrepreneur. And there are 2 sub-components also. First component is on establishing and financing functioning forest-based enterprises as a source of economic growth and rural employment. The major objective of this project is also creating environment for rural employment. And another sub-component is for providing access to finance on lending activities. There is a figure you can see how the project goes on. Particularly, I would like to say is that there are so many topics to finance, like nursery establishment, furniture making, veneer peeling, plywood production, wood chips, timber treatment, seasoning, wood densification, likewise biomass shipping. There are many products to finance. Besides that, transportation, export, sales of essential oil, biocompressed natural gas, production of honey. Honey is also an important component of this project. And ADBL also finances nature-based eco-village or homestay to promote ecotourism. What are the key benefits of this project? If we talk about the benefits, first of all, it creates employment at the rural areas. It increases income of the rural people. And after all, it contributes to the nature, it contributes to the climate, after all, to the world as well. This project, World Bank's project, is not a big project. It's only 24 million USD project, but we provide loan to the customers up to for 15 years. This addresses the issue of volatile interest rate and the need for long-term investment. You know, the interest rate for the customer is fixed here, not more than 9%, and it is fixed. So we say that this is very safe for customers because there is no volatility of the up and down of the interest rates. And the FPP project has not only built the capacity of the forest-based SMEs, but also has enhanced the capacity of ADBL. We are also learning from this project. Our staffs are also learning something about climate, something about green finance. So it is also equally important for Agriculture Development Bank and their staff. The tailored financial product is developed to cater the specific needs of forest-based enterprises. There are some way forward. I have proposed some innovative solution, like we need to create investment fund if we talking about nature, if we are talking about green finance, we have to have a clear investment fund. And agro insurance products. I already explained that insurance for agriculture and insurance for forest-based enterprises is more or less a big issue, and it is a difficult task for entrepreneurs in Nepal. So agroforestry insurance products must be there in place in Nepal. I would like to suggest like this way. And another is digitalized technology. Implementation of digital platforms like online credit application. Agriculture Development Bank is providing online credit application facilities to the customers. They can apply loan from their own home. They need not to go to the bank. So this kind of digitalized technology must be what I say. And a digitalized payment system also is there. It is also equally important. Kisan credit card, Kisan mobile application of ADBL can be used also. Yeah. For this project, for this World Bank project, we have prepared a product paper that details about the type of loan, tenure of loan, grace period, credit limit, collateral requirement, ESRM. This type of issues are there. Loan is given to term loan and working capital, a term loan and working capital. Both loan is given. Interest rate is fixed. It is 9%. And tenure of loan is up to 15 years. And it is renewal also. Working capital is renewal type loan. Grace period is there. And up to 80% of the total cost of the project is finance in terms of term loan and 70% as working capital. And likewise, collateral is required, Collateral is maybe movable or immovable property, land or building. And there must be personal or organizational guarantee also. And this project considers environmental and social risk issues too. Thank you. This is my short explanation about my organization, about the project entrusted by World Bank. Thank you once again, Mariam, for inviting me in this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Babu Kajitapa. I really appreciate it. So let me just bring us back to why forest sector in Nepal is very important. In the 70s and the 80s, Nepal introduced its new model that is called community-based forest management, pretty much focusing on the conservation side because the forest here was fully degraded and deforested. So 4 decades ago, and this is one of the most famous models in the world where communities actually manage the forest sector. So as of now, because of that model, because of the communities that we have here in Nepal, the forest sector has increased. The forest cover has increased to 45%, meaning that half of the country is afforested. But this is all thanks to the conservation efforts. So today, the government of Nepal is exploring ways on how they can mobilize and monetize their natural resources to also benefit economic growth in the country. And this is one of the models, one of the first innovative solutions where the World Bank, the government of Nepal, and ADBL are trying to support small and medium enterprises in the forest sector and provide them access to finance so they can create more and better jobs. Moving on to the next session, I would like to present our next speaker, which is Mr. Siddhant Pandey. He is the CEO of Business Oxygen, and he is going to talk about his experience on working with the IFC's Small and Medium Enterprises Venture Fund. Thank you.
Very good morning to you, ACSIC members. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit differently from what you heard earlier in Mr. Thapa's discourse. I'm talking about an innovative financial product that was introduced to Nepal about a decade ago. It was brought here as a part of IFC's, International Finance Corporation's SME Ventures program, and it was in the form of private equity, which was unheard of in Nepal. The whole gist of this intervention, or introducing this new alternative asset class, was to target the missing middle. The missing middle were the ones who would not get access to finance because they had no collateral. They could not scale up their businesses because they didn't have the right debt-equity ratio, and the banks did not have the risk appetite to invest in them. So to put things in perspective, and before I go deeper into my presentation, I would like to share with you a video that we made several years ago when we started. It is basically of the 3 companies that we started, but we have now 16 companies under our portfolio. So enjoy this very short video, and then I will dive deeper into the nuances of climate financing.
Energy as a service was the core idea behind starting Saraloja. BO2 investment came exactly at the time when we were about to implement PPA model, renewable energy as a service model, where we'll have to invest heavily upfront. Besides the investment, whatever they brought to the table was good, and we're following it, and our management practice has changed.
सरल ऊर्जासँग बसेर काम गर्दाखेरि समुदायको उन्नति हेरेर चाहिँ मेरो व्यक्तिगत तौरमा पनि परिवर्तन भएको छ। मलाई यो रोजगारी पाइसकेपछि चाहिँ अरु खर्च छुट्याएर त्यहाँ चाहिँ लगानी गरिरहेको छु, सानो पसल भए पनि।
Chain Resort actually developed organically as we saw the need for better accommodation for our own guests from around the world. We practice responsible tourism that can be replicated in other parts of the Himalayas. One of the things that BO2 has really helped is to bring in corporate governance into the project. We are a family business, and so when you're running a family business, a lot of things are left rather casual, and the way forward is always for corporate governance, especially when you have so many lodges to run.
Bringing our home-cooked food to customers. So that's how we started Dalli. Since BA2 came in, they've helped us with the central kitchen, which was very important at that time, and we've grown in numbers from 3 to 10 outlets, and we hope to grow even bigger. We're trying to hire at least 30% female employees. 90% of our staff go to college.
अब 2-4 पैसा भए पनि आफूले कमाइरहेको छु, घरमा अब खर्च भइरहेछ, त्यसमा पनि आफ्नो खुट्टामा आफै उभिन सक्ने भए।
SMEs are vital for economies like Nepal. However, this segment is the most neglected. They lack access to capital because they don't have security to give to the bank, so they haven't been able to scale up. That's where Business Oxygen has come in to provide that much needed capital as well as the technical expertise. Majority of the SMEs in Nepal have traditional management practices. Therefore, with our entry into them, we'd like to see them grow not only in their balance sheet, but ensure that they are in compliance with the rules of the law, as well as in compliance with climate smart approaches.
This was not a grant, it was not a donor-driven capital that was given. This is purely a commercial venture. It was a paradigm shift for a multilateral to intervene in economies, frontier markets like ours, in this modality. In 2015, my company signed the agreement with IFC to start the SME Ventures program in Nepal in the name of Business Oxygen. Private equity was the modality of intervention. It was a new asset class in Nepal, an alternative financial option that was provided to the economy as a start. And in 2017, after climate investment funds and the UK government's FCDO came in and invested and brought the blended finance aspect to the equation, we became a climate focused fund. So in Nepal, private equity as an impact has started. I'll go deeper into that in my next slide, what it means, how we intervene in companies. The blended finance is very important because blended finance takes the risk that the other investors are not willing to take. They are willing to enter markets like this at taking the first course of default. And it is very important for markets like this to attract blended finance, especially when these blended finance comes with the technical assistantship program. Viability gap funding is also available in Nepal, but it's in its very nascent stage. The Asian Development Bank and the World Bank have done a bit of viability gap funding for solar companies, but we have not been able to attract any green bonds yet. Neither have we been able to take credit. We used to take credit for improved cooking stoves for carbon credits, but we have not been able to do that, and these are options for financing green investments in the future that we have to work harder on. Now, to get into the... Okay. As mentioned in the video, private equity is the appropriate measure to invest in economies where SMEs are the backbone of the economy. The SMEs are traditionally managed. They have no idea of international best practices, lack of ESG measures, let alone climate smart approaches. So private equity is a hand-holding mechanism where they not only bring risk capital to the equation, but also diffusion of knowledge. I'll give you an example. When we were looking at this coffee plantation, we brought in an expert from abroad to help this farmer to research on what he needs to do to expand. He was planning to buy more land to expand his coffee business. And after this review, the expert told him, if you are going to expand, do not do it at 600 or 700 meters where you are. You need to go above 900 meters because of climate change. Okay. So these are the value add that interventions and investments like this bring to the equation. If we had not intervened, that farmer would probably have bought more land at the same neighboring land that he had, and his crop would not have yielded the same sort of quality that would have been expected, and he would have gone bankrupt. So SMEs are the most vulnerable to climate change, and we use this method of bringing in technical assistantship to help our SMEs to scale up, not only through ESG, not only through scaling up their balance sheets, but also scaling up on other areas of environment, social, and entertaining good governance in the companies. Okay? It is an unconventional method where systems, knowledge, expertise, and partnership come into play. We go in, help them rebrand themselves. We help them align themselves to international best practices. And these companies, before our intervention, would have dual books of accounts. Today, I am glad to say that the 16 companies that we've invested in the past 6 years have contributed almost $5 million to the government coffers. That's because of governance issues. So if we hadn't intervened, there would be no obligation for them to pay taxes or follow good governance measures. Okay, we bifurcate our climate investments into three: climate mitigation and climate adaptation resilience financing. One of our companies is a solar rooftop company on the mitigation of greenhouse gases, has been able to replace 7.1 gigawatt hours of energy, replace thermal energy by the solar, and also displaced 64 million rupees worth of import and saved the government foreign exchange. Other company that makes biopellets. Biopellets are basically called green coal. They are a substitute to coal, and coal, as you know, is extremely harmful. They have been able to create 14,841 voluntary carbon units. That's a reduction of that in the atmosphere. And 20,232 tons of organic waste has been converted to fertilizers. Okay. So these are the various ways that we help reduction of greenhouse gases. Our other company, Gandaki Urja, which makes biogas, biofertilizers, are companies that are supplementing the reduction of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And Nepal, by 2045, has said that it will be net zero. We have a long way to go, but these are small demonstrative steps that we have taken in order to facilitate that net zero path. Now, climate mitigation is easy compared to adaptation and resilience. All of our investments have to go through adaptation resilience. That means rainwater harvesting, reduction of energy use, structural ways of creating energy reduction, and climate smart measures, whether it is creating a central kitchen or a FDA-approved factory for production. We do it so that we try to replace the diesel generators with solar. So these are interventions that our economy extremely needs. But there's a big problem with renewable energy financing. Renewable energy financing needs patient capital. It does not all renewable energy investments make money overnight. And investors are very, very few who come in order to look at the qualitative aspect of it. So that's why we need to start creating innovative financial structures. And as I mentioned earlier, viability gap funding is very important. Blended finance is very important. And we are doing that in Nepal. And we need to replicate this very quickly in order to be able to be compliant with climate financing. I'm glad to say my company, Business Oxygen, was noted by Financial Times, UK's Financial Times, as one of the 100 impact investors globally 2 months ago. So I guess we are doing something correctly. In the video that I showed earlier was a bit old. It said 69,000 people impacted. Today we have impacted 211,879 people with 766 SMEs around the value chain with our 16 climate smart investments, 1,707 direct jobs. Earlier it was 41% women, 26% women participation in the video. Today we are 54% participating women in our portfolio companies. 36,000, almost 37,000 indirect jobs have been created. You can just imagine what the impact of a small fund like this can do. If we can replicate this with larger funds, the impact is going to be greater. Okay. We normally bifurcate align our impact to United Nations SDG goals, bifurcation through economy, society, and biosphere. So we meet about 10 of the 17 SDG goals. We review this every 6 months and we come up with new figures. So this is very important to track what our impact is doing. Okay, as we say in Business Oxygen, let's breathe and let's hope for a more greener future for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your insightful and engaging presentation. Thank you so much, Mr. Siddhant Pandey. Your expertise with the SME Venture Fund are truly inspiring. And it's very important to mobilize climate blended financing. But let us go a little bit back to discuss and understand on how we can actually create innovation and what is the technology adoption and the importance of it. So I would like to introduce you to the next speaker. Unfortunately, she is unable to be with us in person today, but she is connecting online from Washington, D.C. Ms. Natasha Kapil, she is a lead private sector specialist at the World Bank. Natasha, over.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Namaskar to all of the participants. I hope I'm audible. I apologize, I'm having some technical difficulties with my camera this evening here in Washington, so I hope you will allow me to make a few remarks. I was invited to speak specifically about the topic of innovation, and I understand that we've had phenomenal presentations leading up to this talking about efforts to support MSMEs in using technology and scaling technology for energy efficiency and also nature-based solutions in forestry. I'd like to take The other is actually creating new technologies and creating new solutions that are not just relevant in Nepal, Bhutan, or India for that matter, but can scale globally. And I think the mechanisms for both the diffusion of those technologies, but also the financing of these technologies, varies deeply. And I'd like to posit that there is a great role for the public sector to play in supporting both of those two channels of innovation in South Asia. And so we've heard from Business Oxygen about starting out with a smaller portfolio, growing it to approximately 16 to 20 companies today. Very impressive numbers. But what if that number were not 16 companies, not 60 companies, but actually 600 companies, and that these entrepreneurs were looking at, making sizable impact in the economies of South Asia and addressing some of the climate challenges. So when we think about issues and when we've looked at issues in nascent ecosystems, we see that there are several missing complementary assets in addition to finance. I realize we're here to talk about finance today, but we find managerial capabilities to be one of the biggest constraints for innovation actually moving forward in companies. So access to skills, access to markets, access to infrastructure, and access to finance are really some of the most important ingredients in making sure that innovation moves forward in companies and makes a lasting dent on productivity and growth. And so sometimes we've seen in nascent ecosystems when you just provide the finance, but you don't have all of the necessary complementary assets, you might actually see negative returns to the financing efforts that governments might put in place. And so I think it's really important that we acknowledge some of these complementary assets that have to be taken into consideration. If we think about the first channel, which was adoption of existing technology, some of the work we're doing in India is giving us insights into two kinds of policies that are really supportive. So one is reducing energy price subsidies, and the second is actually supporting much more targeted energy efficiency programs, so greening programs. Both of these two policies, hand in hand, seem to be actually much more supportive of driving innovation and adoption in companies. And interestingly, as I was saying, innovation is not just about creating new technologies, it's also about using existing technologies. So digitalization in the firms that use digital technologies will also tend to be the ones that are able to use and adopt green technologies better. And so I think this is a very important point for us to take away, that it's not just about promoting, let's say, a cook stove or a greener, energy efficient battery or what have you, but also looking at the fundamental digital practices within MSMEs if we want all of these green practices to take root and have a lasting impact. Because there are similar barriers and similar drivers for adoption of these technologies. I just wanted to mention that Finland, if you think about Finland and its initial, before it became a world-famous knowledge economy with Angry Birds and Nokia, it was an agrarian, a forest-based economy, but what they actually became superbly well known for is digitizing the forest industry. So putting chips on trees, logging them, making sure that when they sent them out to market, the standards and certification and metrics around all of these trees were known and you could track the value chain. Today, we would probably do this on blockchain, but back in the day, they had simpler technologies. But again, digitalization of very traditional forestry and nature-based industries is something that really could be important for our countries, including Nepal. But I think when we start designing these programs, it's important that we understand what are the market failures. And now I'd like to transition a little bit from, thinking about how we use existing technologies to also supporting entrepreneurs, startups, companies that can create these new technologies in the market. And it's very important from a public policy standpoint that we think about what are the key market failures. And very often, when we're trying to do deeper research and development and design new deeper technology-based market products and solutions, some of the main issues that we face are around coordination, information asymmetries, and appropriability of spillovers. And all of this, as economists talk to say, that innovation is an extremely risky business. And this is why the state actually ought to be participating and intervening in this very, very early stage. And with all due respect to the previous speaker, while I absolutely endorse the use of private equity instruments and market-based instruments, because this is the way that the world is going in the future, there still is room for the public sector to intervene through grant instruments, whether they are matching grants or royalty-based grants, or co-investment facilities with the private sector where we leverage the acumen of the private sector and the capabilities. I think it's really important that we make sure that we're targeting the right space. And that space is the one where companies, the private sector is unlikely to enter because the risks are too serious, they're too high. And that's exactly where we would want the state to take a role and intervene. And I'd like to posit that the role of the state in de-risking innovation and pipeline building is probably, apart from setting tariffs and making sure that we have we have standardization and metrology institutions and all of those that our companies are going to need in order to be export oriented, really seeing how we can de-risk that earliest stage of technology adoption, but also creation of new green products in the market is critical. So I'd like to just stop then. I hope this is, my intention was not to be too controversial, but really to just bring in also this perspective that in addition to all of these market-based and private sector solutions, there is a potent role that the state can play in accelerating this process and bringing many more companies into the market and providing a greater pipeline for the private sector to actually invest and scale in. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Appreciate it. So we have only 10 minutes or so left. So can I invite our distinguished speakers to sit here? And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And we'll just discuss a few important points on why and what are the challenges on financing or green financing or financing nature. So let me kick it on, and I would like to ask the first question is, how do you think can financial institutions and private investors be more incentivized to provide green financing?
You asked me, okay. You know, the problem that we've faced during our green intervention is that it's new. Renewable energy investments in this country is very new. Returns are does not happen. Profits do not happen in the expected time, or the IRR is not of expectation. So we have felt that there has to be some sort of intervention to help these commercial investments to have the ability to withstand the lost period. And it doesn't help when governments keep on subsidizing fossil fuel. So it becomes, for instance, LPG is cheaper than compressed natural gas. So, you know, I mean, it is impossible. It's not viable. Biofertilizers are more expensive than the imported chemical fertilizers that are subsidized. So what do you do here? It's very difficult. I mean, for an investor, this is something that we've learned a bit late. So we are trying to introduce voluntary carbon credits to this equation, but even that is very expensive because the entire process of evaluating the carbon, enabling the carbon credit market is very, very expensive. So right now, we are looking at it from a renewable energy portfolio, so that some renewable energy investments are going to go down, the others are going to be able to offset the losses with their profits. So this is why patient capital is needed, and this is where the lady who was speaking earlier from the World Bank also talked about grants. This is where the blended finance comes in, and that is very important to have. But having said that, there are some very, in our experience, the solar, rooftop solar, or the solar installations are very profitable, number one. Number two, our bio pellets are very profitable. So, it's a matter of how you manage your portfolio.
Thank you so much. And what about from the commercial or from the banking side? How can banks invest more in green financing?
Okay, thank you, Miriam. First of all, green financing, the terminology is quite new in Nepal, particularly in banking sector. There are 20 commercial banks in Nepal, and the development banks are there, microfinances are there, cooperatives are there, thousands of cooperatives are there. The problem is that internalizing the importance of green financing, climate resilience, it is quite new for bankers also. Banking staffs, particularly myself also, I have commercial mindset, What's the importance of green financing? Why the green financing is done? This kind of literacy is quite poor in Nepal banking sector. So, but it is getting importance, and central bank, Nepal Rashtra Bank is the central bank of Nepal, and it has imposed commercial bank that at least 12% of the total portfolio must go to the agriculture and forest-based enterprises. So in case of Agriculture Development Bank, our portfolio around 33% portfolio is in agriculture and forest-based enterprises. Yes, okay, imagine there is market, there is technology, there is everything in green financing. Without money, without capital, without investment, there is nothing to say. So access to finance, importance of finance is there, and it is getting popularity, Miriam. And World Bank, I have already explained that we have one project that is totally based on forest-based enterprises. We have to lend the customers and for the forest-based enterprises. So it is getting popularity, and the importance of financial literacy is important for this case.
Thank you so much. So let us take a few questions. I see a hand here. Please.
Good morning. I have two questions. One for Mr. Siddhartha Pandey. I'm impressed with your measures of success of your company, and you mentioned 6 measures of success. I just want to focus on one. One of your measures of success is your impact on SMEs across the value chain. By this, I mean the value chain of the company that you invest in. How do you actually do that? How do you deliberately make sure that the supply chain along the companies that you finance are also able to benefit?
Let me answer your question with an example.
Sorry, may I also pose a second question so that the second question is addressed to the lady in Washington, actually, World Bank. Malaysia, we subscribe to ECG. I'm talking about sustainability in a wider context. We're a strong believer in ECG, and CGC Malaysia has a lot of financing available for our clients to comply to ECG standards when they want to go to market overseas. My only problem is, I'm a little bit confused now because most of these standards are imposed by US, the West, America. I'm a bit confused because right now, I'm confused whether the World Bank still believes in ESG. Because right now there's a complete destruction of environment E. A complete destruction of society, S. And a complete destruction of G, the government, in Gaza. Now, this is totally against ESG. So, why are we following these standards when the champions of ESG are not? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to answer your first question with an example of one of our portfolio companies. It was a doggy chew company that provided exports of doggy chews. If you know, this is hardened chews that goes to the US and Canada and Japan, and it's very popular. And it's provided, majority of it is provided from Nepal and India. So for that cheese, we had to rely on 200 micro dairies, okay? Now that was the value chain. So in order to guarantee that, just by a change of 1 rupee, the suppliers could go to another factory and provide their raw material. So what we did is that we created a trilateral agreement between the company, the microfinancing institution, and the micro dairy, okay? So that there was trade receipts, everything would be shuttled through the microfinance. There would be a credit history for the providers, the micro dairies, and they would be bound to provide because they were already bound to the supply because he had given the undertaking to the microfinance. So this sort of was the contractual obligation that ensured the raw material from the value chain to the factory, whereas the community also benefited because now they had a credit rating from the microfinance. They could start getting loans for other social causes or for business purposes besides what they were providing for. So this is just an example of how we try to get these people embedded in the system to guarantee our value chain.
Thank you so much. Ms. Natasha Kapil, over to you. The second question, please.
Thanks, Miriam. So I understand that the second question was ever so slightly political in nature, and I can understand the context there. But I think there is, if I can take a more technical approach to responding to it, when it comes to compliance with ESG standards, I think there is a serious role for the public sector to play. And this is exactly part of what I was talking about. In addition to financing of the technology, or in addition to financing of the innovation, there are aspects that many of our client countries, especially in South Asia, are really going to be hit hard by, including EUDR, CBAM, and the like. And I think this is what the colleague was referring to. And the public sector can actually create meaningful information access to companies so that they know how to comply. They can create common clubbed goods and standardization institutions for testing, for quality, for metrology. These are the types of activities that I think actually authorities can be supportive of, so that smaller companies that couldn't single-handedly invest in those types of initiatives can actually have access to them and become compliant with some of these requirements that Western markets are facing, are imposing upon not just companies in South Asia, because it's a global requirement that they have also within Europe, and these are challenges that companies are facing in the US and Europe, but they do have, from a financial perspective, a leg up on companies in South Asia. So these challenges are significant, and I think that there is an important role from a technical perspective that the state can play.
Thank you very much, Natasha. We have one more question here, please.
Hi. It's a question which is open for Siddhant or Natasha, whoever wishes to take it. What I see when you're talking about MSMEs, especially on the climate side, one thing which I have observed very closely, that data provenance of the asset is a big challenge for patient capital of private capital essentially to flow at a scale which is desired for ensuring the achievement of the goals of SDG 30, which we are talking about today. We are already at 2024, and we are just 6 years away from 2030. But the report doesn't show very encouraging output so far. I'll give you one example, just for making the things very clear. Take, for example, there is a lot of work happening on commercial electric vehicle financing in many emerging markets, including India. Okay. Now, if you look at the way the financing is happening today, the cost of financing for these commercial vehicles for electric vehicle in emerging markets, the rates are ranging anything from, you can say, 18% to 22-24%, but APR is almost like upwards of 30%. Still, it is viable. The guys whose livelihood is dependent on these electric vehicle for commercial use, and he's a small entrepreneur, because of his saving the fuel cost eventually. What I see the big gap here again, that subsidized cost he is not getting. Some government incentives are giving, some multilaterals are also supporting. Why there are not enough efforts which is happening in ensuring that the monetization of the carbon credit is eventually, for especially these MSMEs, are passed on to these MSME directly rather than the OEMs and other institutions who are actually monetizing those carbon credits. Okay, you must be aware about that, the huge funding which has come to India for EV financing in the multiple form, which is yet to be deployed. It's $1.5 billion of fund which still lies unutilized today. Okay, so that is one thing. So what I mean to say that, what are the innovations which are required here? One is liquidity. You need even the carbon credit exchange for that matter, which India is going through in IFSCA very soon, I guess probably next 1 year time that will happen. That will unleash a new opportunity for the global investors to start participating. Technology definitely will play a significant role, definitely. And I foresee, I am already working with various startups and I'm mentoring various startups who are doing phenomenal work on blockchain-based solution for green bond trading, MSME financing, and even they have, one guy has taken a step in creating something wherein, geo-fencing and geo-tagging each and every part of the world and doing predictive risk modeling for credit enablement by lat-long trading, geo-tagging and tracking the data, and they can do the predictive model which can be short-term, medium-term, and long-term, which can go as high as to 2100, end of the century. But what I'm seeing that it has not scaled, okay? So how do you think that IFC, like an kind of institutions, can intervene and collaborate with government institutions and create a bridge between public and private institutions for making a thriving ecosystem? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other additional questions before we respond, or shall we go? Okay, let us respond. It's a complex question that covers a lot of interesting elements and instruments. So I don't know, do you want me to start? I can respond to the carbon question. It's very interesting. I'm currently leading the carbon financing in Nepal. And I know that India has a lot of domestic schemes that are being tested, and they're very interesting. In Nepal, it's more international carbon trading, not yet happening, but the government is trying to deploy registry systems, a lot of carbon trading infrastructure, but also it has a lot of policy reforms that are needed to monetize emissions reductions generated from the transport sector included, right? So I'll tell you what we're doing and then what the problems are and the role of the private sector. So in Nepal, it's very interesting. There is a policy that was introduced a few years ago to promote the use of electric vehicles. In these 2 years, the amount of electric vehicles has actually increased drastically. So the government lost a lot of revenue from the import tax. However, we've noted a big number of reduced emissions reductions and improved air quality in the Kathmandu Valley because of the use of the electric vehicles. From the private sector side, the motivation was not to reduce carbon or CO2. The motivation was to pay less for import tax. However, it actually turned into a big climate benefit and improvement of the air pollution. So right now, the government of Nepal is exploring ways on how they can sell those emissions that were reduced to, there are a few buyers, but most of them are contributors from Sweden, Norway, Germany, and others, on how they can trade it. So there is a big carbon trading element that is coming up, and some countries are more developed than others, and Nepal is still exploring that. In India, those schemes that are there, they're very advanced, but still there is a lot of, domestic schemes are advanced, and but still there is a long way to go. Singapore right now is a huge buyer of, we call it MOPA, which is Mitigation Outcome Purchase Agreements, where you take the emissions reductions from India or Nepal, if you have an agreement, and you actually put it and cover it under your own commitments and achievements. So it's interesting. The carbon trading scheme is happening. I see there is mostly from Nepal side, the government is the owner of the carbon here, where private sector is just benefiting from reduced impact, import tax, etc. In other countries, private sector plays a huge role as well, and they can also sell and trade their carbon. So it depends from country to country how it's done. It's really based on the regulatory framework that is being put in place. And the big question on the rights of the carbon, who owns the carbon? Is it me as an individual? Is it the private sector? Is it the bank? Is it the government? So I think there are a lot of discussions around it, and I don't think there is a clear solution. It's really domestic policy regime that determines who the right of the carbon, the credit right. So this is on the e-vehicle side, the carbon trading. I mean, I'm not sure if you know the Paris alignment. It's a big agreement that was made by many parties, including most of your countries. And there is an Article 6 that calls for climate financing, but also carbon financing. So the whole world is trying to identify how do we trade carbon, both from the domestic, international, but also private sector perspective.
From the private sector's point of view, we have had no access to carbon credits. It's very costly, and now we're trying to explore a voluntary carbon market as a supplementary income for companies to prolong their loss period. Unfortunately for us, from the private sector, it is still a struggle. Going back to the PPP model, I think Nepal's biggest success has been the hydropower in the PPP, where the government builds, the private sector builds the power stations, the hydropower stations, and the government builds the transmission line. Now, if we can do a similar sort of PPP in the renewable, minus the hydropower, the other sectors in renewable energy, I think we would be able to pivot towards a more successful green economy. Thirdly, this transformational change has a cost. Now, when we're talking about MSMEs, the balance sheet of these companies are not going to be able to adhere to ESG measures on their own. So what happens is that we bring in an intervention called the Business Support Service, or as the Technical Assistance Program, where there's X amount of money. 75% of that is given as a grant, but then 25% comes from the balance sheet of these companies so that they have ownership over it. So these are measures that we use in order to help these companies towards transformation change towards a green economy. Okay.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Natasha or Mr. Babu, you would want to add before we close? Because we were told that the time's up. I know it's very interesting, but we have to move on. So any last words of wisdom or experience sharing?
Okay, I don't have anything to say, but what you talked that financing on electric vehicle here. In Nepal case, there is a price war among the bankers who to finance electric vehicles at cheaper price. There is a competition, interest competition, you know. So in terms of commercial banks in Nepal, financing in electric vehicle is very competitive and it is a lucrative business for bankers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We hope you enjoyed the session. It was on green financing, innovative tools and instruments that could finance nature or nature-based solutions. So I think this is very new and emerging discussions. We'll be talking about it everywhere as the whole world is changing towards more resilient, more inclusive, and more sustainable future and economic growth. Thank you so much.
And it's now time for us to extend our gratitude to the esteemed members in the panel. May I invite the esteemed panelists to kindly take center stage for a quick group photograph. Mr. Thapa, would you mind sparing a few more minutes up on stage, please? Ladies and gentlemen, as the panelists themselves said, this is an emerging discussion and it's going to be there for a long time now, but it has to get started. And it's really good to hear from the panel that things are really taking shape and pace. And we are sure that we need to do our bit as well, because this is something that touches every bit of the life and non-life here on Earth. I want to hold the panelist for a little longer. Ma'am Marine, could you stay back one more minute, as there is a small formality that we need to do, and that is our gratitude and appreciation to our very distinguished panelists who have spared their valuable time and insights. And to do the honors, on behalf of the ACSIC family, may I invite upon stage Mr. Kenjo Yoneda, the Senior MD from JFC. And here I request my friends to kindly bring in this delightful souvenir that we are extending to our esteemed members from the panel who held the audience, so intensely. Let us do this honors first. First and foremost, we have Mr. Siddhant Raj Pandey, the CEO of Business Oxygen, IFC's SME Venture Fund. Thank you so much, Mr. Pandey, for that incredible sharing. Mr. Babu Kaji Thapa, the DGM, representing the Agricultural Development Bank Limited, Nepal, who especially looks into mobilizing private investments for forest-based SMEs in Nepal. Acknowledging the contribution of Ms. Natasha Kapi, lead private sector specialist from the World Bank as well. She's not here in person. We extend her gratitude. And yes, the moderator herself is taking it on behalf of Ms. Natasha. And the final one to the session moderator, Ms. Mareem Shakirova, Senior Natural Resources Management Specialist, the World Bank. Yes, this one is for you, to the session moderator. That one was for Natasha. All right, so, sir, could you also present this one as well to Ms. Mareem? You'll have to take two, right? One is for Ms. Natasha and one is for Ms. Mareem.